Great music, wasn't that? It's 7:39. Thank you so much for staying with us here on the AM show. Now, joining me is one man who's well vexed when it comes to dieting and how to eat well and eat right. Nana Kofi Owusu, he's a dietitian and he also lectures as well. So, you know, you can see he's up to speed with current information on dieting. We're here to talk about something that is making a lot of rounds, especially on social media, where you hear that you need to eat according to your blood group or your blood type. And we have family and friends sending you messages. Some of these things go really viral. So because I love you, I've brought him here to throw more light on it. How exactly is this thing? I mean, in terms of truth or deception? What's the way? How do we treat such information?
Okay, so the blood group diet is one of the things that we call food fads. And when we say food fads, fads are things that are not really true, but that people have come to accept over time as the truth. You know, so things that people hear around. An example is the fact that they say lime causes people to lose weight. It's a fad.
That's not true.
It's not true.
Please stop taking lime if you are trying to lose weight.
No, that's not the
This
thing.
is from an expert.
Yeah,
he says it's not true.
Yes, you might be losing the weight not because you're taking the lime, but because you're not eating enough. You know, so that's it. It's a food fad.
But wait, before you go on, does the lime have a way of killing appetite when you take in
Not
lime?
necessarily.
Okay, then probably that's the link. Maybe they say when you take lime,
it
you don't
kill your
have
appetite. No,
okay.
I don't know about that.
All right, okay.
But I think that, see, fact is something which is accepted. Scientific fact is accepted by many the world over, and it must be reproducible. Means that when you test it for this person, it must also work for this person. In actual fact, to accept something as a fact, it must be true for about 90 to 95% of the population. So you have a hypothesis, and people think about something, then it is tested and retested, and it becomes a fact. But the blood group diet is not found to work for everybody or most people. It works for a few people, it might be true, but for the majority of people, it doesn't work. And we're even seeing that it has side effects for some of the blood groups. Some are very problematic, and we'll go into those things and then talk about. So it's something that was started somewhere in 1970 by Peter D. Adamo, and it's been used over time in the US and in other parts of the world, but the scientific community don't think it holds water, and so it's been thrown away. It's obsolete, it's antiquated, it's outdated, it's outmoded. And so let's just
heavy words.
Let's just not worry our heads too much about them.
Okay, so on the radio, on TV, sometimes we hear some of these people giving out some of these information, and what they claim is that the world of science doesn't want to agree with such findings because they want to keep you sick so they can feed the pharmaceutical industry so that you can still, you know, have the system running. I've heard a lot of people say that on radio, that this works, just that science doesn't want to agree with it.
No, contrary to that, you know, the facts of it, and we all attest to it. Let me give you a case in point. Meat intake is one. High meat intake is advised for blood group O. And so think about this. High meat intake, nowhere will it suffice as the thing to do to be healthy. We know this cholesterol is staring us in the face, this hypertension is staring us in the diabetes is on ascendancy, renal disease. I mean, Ghana, people eat meat like they really don't know. But so a diet that promotes high meat intake or high foods that are very oily and fatty and proteinaceous intake is not something that is very helpful, and it's a way to go. So I don't think that's true. There are some, say like blood group A, which advises grains and cereal intake. That is good, but it also has its shortfalls. So we see that it is not like people are clamoring against it because they want to perpetuate. We are independent-minded people, and as a professional, you are supposed to do your independent assessment of the facts of the matter and then advise accordingly. And professionally, as a dietitian myself, I do not agree with it. If I were not even a dietitian, I would not be agreeing with it
all right.
to
So
the latter.
you speak of meat. What's the right portion of meat?
The right portion of meat is like
it.
2 matchbox sizes, maximum
What?
of a 3.
Two
matchbox, the small
sizes.
matchbox size to be specific. It's not the huge matchbox, you know. So when you have
then our restaurants are killing us.
Yeah, it's serious. And you have a zoo on your fufu, and I don't think it's the best. You have a chinam, you have a crantier.
You're balancing it. You have a bit of fish, a bit of meat.
No, it's too much. You know, sometimes it drowns the fufu that you can't.
But some would prefer that because the fufu is, you know, high in starch.
No, but you see, a sizable portion will be okay, and then you do a little. Moderation is the key here. A little of this, a little of that, then you take your soups that are not very oily, and then you are good to go. So that's the way to go. So blood group O advises high meat. And then another thing,
they also advise high intake of carbohydrates.
Yes, you see, and then but unfortunately they don't advise the high intake of whole grains, which are the mainstay of healthy living or healthy eating, because the whole grains have B vitamins in them. They have high fiber and high roughage, which will help reduce your cholesterol. Even nuts and seeds, they have high antioxidants, you know, which makes you strong. That could be says that you are predominantly supposed to take a milk-based food.
Which you find
ridiculous. I find very funny. You know, so if you have a lactose intolerance, what are you going to do about it? You have a problem digesting the lactose. And unfortunately, that could be people in the area where we have the highest incidence of lactose intolerance. You know, so it's a little problematic.
So scientifically, it's not even possible to recommend lactose-based foods for such people who are lactose intolerant.
So I mean, we have to be careful about it. We have about 60% of the world population blood group O, and if the 60% of the people are taking high meat, no grains, then and you see the problem we are running into. We have about 21% blood group A. And if the blood group A people are people who are just taking grains and cereals, and they are not taking adequate meat, they will get kashoko kids all around. You know, we even have the problem of vitamin B12 deficiency. You know, that will stare you in the face if you don't take protein, because the intrinsic factor is predominantly from the animal sources, to be specific. Some people argue that you have a little in soya bean, but it's not very, very, very available, and the quantity is not too much. So you need a little of the meat, a little of the fish. We don't say don't take meat at all. We don't say don't take fish at all. Take it in the portions that are right for you, for your age, for your gender, for your physiological state. If you're a pregnant woman, you need to take a little bit more, because you are feeding yourself and you're building tissues for your baby.
Okay, now talking about the right portions. For me, how do I know what the right portion is for me? Is it when I'm satisfied that I know, okay, this is where I must stop, no matter the amount of food I served for myself? Once I feel that I'm satisfied, okay, that's it. So is that my right portion?
No, the portion depends upon the amount of work you're going to do. How much you eat depends upon how much you'll expend, because it's in and out.
There's a lot of mathematics. Okay, so then when I'm going to have lunch today, I have to start thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? If I'll not exert a lot of energy, then I must eat something little. Is that what you're saying?
True.
Do a lot of mathematics to my eating?
You must estimate. But if you're a sedentary worker, then you must eat just till you are okay. Don't be extra. Some people eat and they can't even walk, you know, and that's problematic. And
when they go for weddings, the ladies who wear the corsets, they have to go to the bathroom and say, please, can you help me?
Yes, and they are trying to hide stuff, you know. And talking about weddings, people go to buffets at weddings and they want to sample everything. On the table.
Someone said someone sampled everything, including the soap. No. So this ketchup, I've not seen.
Yes, you know, but it's not ketchup, the soap. It's something we should be careful about. You eat. And especially when you skip your meals, say you don't take breakfast, and you come and binge on a lunch, then there is a tendency of overeating. if you skip your meals, there's a tendency of overeating because you are very hungry. There's a physiological happening that makes you want to eat more because satiety is in your brain. You get hungry in your brain first before it's in your stomach. So you tend to eat and eat till your brain tells you are satisfied.
Okay.
You know, and that is too much.
Right. So this is getting really, really, really interesting. So if I miss my breakfast,
Yes.
should I just go ahead to eat my regular lunch portion?
Yes.
I
You
shouldn't
should.
add.
You should not
Breakfast.
add. You should not add breakfast.
What if I'm not satisfied?
No, what satiety is in the mind. You know, so what we really want you to be satisfied not with the high carbs or the high meat or the high protein, but with the high veg. That's what we want you to be satisfied with. So you can be satisfied just by adding something that is not heavy in calories, then you'll be okay. But people want to eat till that's the problem. That's
Okay,
the problem.
please, you've heard it from the experts. There's no such thing as eating according to your blood group or your blood type, and we are delving into other aspects of
but
dieting.
if you want to take that into consideration, then right now we have 7 billion diets. Because we are feeding people individually now. Because what may be good for Ama Mansa may not be good for Akosie Chan. What may be good for the goose may not be good for the gander.
Okay, so how do you go about helping me with my diet if I come to you for consultation?
So I will go through a litany of things with you and then help you identify the things that you feel uncomfortable when you take. Then I'll tell you to minimize, because your body is a perfect system. It will reject what's not good for you and accept what's good for you.
Do you run tests? Do you do...
There are allergic tests that we do for people, rust and etc. A lot of scientific things. But we do it right from childhood, then we identify what the allergies are. Sometimes also, if you don't introduce the feeding very well, then there might be more allergies that will come in later on. Yes, and so your typical meal should have some carbs, some protein. A little oils are not good. Fat is not a bad thing. It is when you overdo it and you want to see a sea of fat on your soup so that you can watch your face. If you don't have a mirror and you want to watch your face in the soup, then it's problematic because then it will be so much. And I see people do this in the chop bars all the time. You serve me a bowl of fufu with some fish and then they would scoop extra oil.
Because over time we've been told that red oil, especially palm nut soup, we've been told that the oil that comes on top of the palm nut soup is actually good for us. And so people, I think the problem is with measuring. What's the right quantity?
Yes, so you should not see the oil on the surface of the food. It should be inside the food. The stew, if you prepare the stew, the oil should be inside. It should not be floating on the surface, you know. And the men are the problem sometimes because they complain the food doesn't look nice. It doesn't look suchy. I want it to be, you know, in a particular way so that I can enjoy. Because food must be appealing. Yes, it must be. But if you take it to the other extreme, then you begin to have a problem. So let our women help us and they give the large portions of the meat to the man. And then they leave the children. And then they give the children fish head. You know, how can you buy wache for a child and give the child willy?
There's nothing in
There's nothing in willy, and you give it to the child. So I don't think is the way.
Okay, now let's move on to a trend. I don't know if it's catching up in Ghana, but in other parts of the world where people do the gastric bypass to help them control their diet. As a dietitian, do we have such surgical procedures in Ghana?
It's there. It's a very highly specialized surgery. Not many professionals are skilled to do it. So, and here we are a little modest, so it's not as rampant as it is in the US or in the Western countries. But it's catching up, especially when the elitist group is increasing, the middle class is coming up, and people are aware of the dangers of being obese or having a lot more fat than you're supposed to have. So people are doing it. But I think that you should exhaust the other things like eating well, eating healthily, and then exercising. You know, the problem for many people is self-control. They lack the discipline. They can't stare the mineral in the face and say bye-bye to it.
Oh.
They must drink it. So
the tongue is...
yes, it's calling them to,
that would taste
nibble.
refreshing.
Yeah, you know, and it's nice. But the sweet things of life are the things that kill us. You know, so if you can exercise a little self-control and increase your physical activity, you will not need a gastric bypass, because if you don't handle it well, it can have problems. You can have also issues over there with absorption of some nutrients if you have done a bypass, because you block a certain portion of your stomach, and absorption of nutrients starts from the stomach. So if you block a certain part, you may not be getting the right juices, gastric juices, to help you digest and absorb the foods very well. So you might have indigestion issues if you do a gastric bypass and you don't take the right portions of the food, you know, and you go and overdo it, or certain kinds of food that you can't handle well, you can have a little problem. So I don't think that I will advise it for a lot of people. But if, say, you are going to do surgery, you know, some people have genetic obesity. The family, the mother was big, the father was big, the siblings are big, everybody, the aunties and the grand aunties.
It may not necessarily be food.
Yes, it may be a genetic predisposition. But even that, if you do dieting and vigorous exercise, you can superimpose your genetic tendencies. You know, so that's the way to go. But if you have tried everything and it's not working, and you're at the brink of getting some knee problem, then we can decide to do the gastric bypass for you so that you can be strong.
All right, okay, but let's wrap up with this. Food supplements.
Yeah.
Would you recommend food supplements? Because, well, we know with all the genetically modified foods we have now, people say, I don't get the required nutrients from what I food. How do I even know that what I'm eating is really organic and not altered in a way? Would you suggest food supplements? Okay,
so my first advice to give is that people must learn to do backyard gardening. People must learn. I mean, invest some time, because then you can get the natural if you're afraid of inorganic. But I think that it's a lesser evil. A lesser evil. I go the organic way, I advise the organic. But if you don't have the organic, it's a lesser evil to do the inorganic than to say I won't do fruits and vegetables at all. There's a danger you stand, because what you will suffer from after, say, 30, 40 years of supposedly taking something which is inorganic and getting your GMO scare and all, you suffer quicker if you don't take the fruits and vegetables, with a stroke, with a hypertension, with a constipation problem, if you don't take fruits and vegetables, you know, because they are nature's richest source of protection for man, fruits and vegetables. So there's no equivocation about it. You must take it, you know. So even if it's inorganic, you need it. But if you don't get if you have the organic, that's the right way to go. If you don't have it, go the inorganic way. Now, supplement intake is when you have a deficiency.
Okay.
If you don't have a deficiency, supplement intake will not add anything to you.
So you need to test and be sure you have a deficiency.
Yes, you know.
Or you're advising that you take supplements only when it's prescribed.
When it's prescribed, yes. You know, the doctor must write.
Because I know people have that habit of, you know, walking to a pharmacy
and saying, multivitamins are the greatest abuse. And I find out that you can get kidney stones when you abuse vitamin C supplements. Wow. I tell you this, and I see a lot of, instead of going to buy an orange to drink, they rather take a tablet of vitamin C and put it in the water. The effervescence will come, and it's flavored, and it's all nice and cute and gentle. They drink on it morning, evening. If you take 2 grams of vitamin C supplement every day for a long time, you run the risk of getting kidney stones. But you need about 300 to 400 milligrams of vitamin C a day. So why take 2 grams?
Wow.
A day? The excess, you urinate some, but some will be kept, and it will give you. So let's go natural. Let's take our fruits, let's take our vegetables. Forget about the blood group diet. Eat your grains, no matter what your blood group, eat your grains, eat your cereals, take a little meat, take some fish, some oil is good for you, and exercise.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate. The conversation is really interesting, but we'd have to wrap it up here. But don't forget, in summary, Nano Wusu, who's a dietitian and a lecturer as well, is telling us that there's no such thing as eating according to your blood type. He's given us a lot of advice. I hope you got your pens and your notepads and took notes. Right now, we'll have to take a quick break. When we come back, Kwabna Chenchehino will be joined in the studio by Honorable Rashid Pelpo and Honorable Obi Amwa for AM Talk. Thanks for your company on my banner.